All
Hi,
right.
Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for January 24th, 2023. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and the podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we'd like to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat feature, and I'll try to make sure Gayle gets to them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question yourself via audio or video. We are also streaming the webcast live on Facebook, or so we believe, so you can share your comments and questions there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about last week's weekly Tittle, which was called Think About a Room. The assignment was to explore one troublesome room or space with a view toward developing a decluttering strategy specific to that space. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and Facebook. Who examined a room that's in need of decluttering strategy this week? Please let us know in the comments. Marsh, frequent participant and commenter, posted a comment on last week's show notes, sharing her analysis of one room. Here's what Marsh had to say. Our 2-bathroom house leaves one full bath suite just for me. It is multifunctional on several levels, as not just personal hygiene care or bathing. It also serves as my imagined space for privacy and serene comfort. I am responsible for cleaning my own bathroom, yet chronically leave used wet towels just dropped over the last wet batch. Sink, toilet, bath, basin haphazardly cleaned, for I resent what I hear in my chatter is a waste of my time, as it will just get messy all over again later. I daily seek to create such a special place, have live potted plants, inspirational pictures, a running fountain, shelves organized with all my essentials, all there so pretty, peaceful, and yet I just keep it messy. Dang.
So much of the general maintenance of life is really resetting things to be used again. This is especially true of the bathroom and the kitchen. Putting things back that will be pulled out the next day or be pulled out in a few hours seems like a waste of time on the one hand, but makes it easier to use on the other hand. Think about the kitchen. If you put the dirty dishes in the dishwasher or wash them and put them on the rack to dry, that full sink of dirty dishes makes prepping the next meal difficult. If you haven't already put everything away, that's just getting in your way. You have to navigate around the mess to function. You have to dig through the mess to find things. It all just becomes more of a hassle. So sure, you're just going to make a mess a few hours later, but the essential functions in the kitchen are always easier when you start in a clean space. You can tell yourself that self-care is a waste of time, but it's not actually true. Putting away what got used just now saves you time and effort when you go back to use the bathroom again. Resetting your spaces makes it easier for you, the occupant of the space, to do what you want to do there. And aiming for that lovely vision of a serene bathroom can only benefit you and how you feel about yourself and that space when you make use of that room. So when I read that comment about, I think self-care is a waste of time, I just thought, well, okay, you can declare it a waste of time, or you can acknowledge that making a difference in your space benefits you the most of anybody in the house. And that makes it worth the effort.
Paula said, I did something better than the Tittle. I got a bunch of donations off to the thrift stores.
Yay! Good job. I'm sure that was a big relief to get all that out of your car and out of your house. So congratulations.
Jane shared, my garage is the space that needed a strategy. I'm planning to use the onion method and to work in rows/layers until I get to the walls.
That's a great idea. And garages in particular, they're dense and they take a lot of time. It's a big space and they get really packed with odd, weird, uncomfortable, difficult to dispose of, fill in the blank. And so it's never really a project that can be done in a day unless you have an army of people. So if you're just going to tackle it yourself, or you and your housemate are going to tackle it, then doing it in sections slowly over time is the best way to keep enthusiastic about it, keep making headway on it, and then actually getting to the end of it, which would be great. Good luck, and make it an aim that you try to get it done before it gets too hot to be out there. So you want to complete this in the next, and by the end of March, I would guess, before it gets too miserable to be in the garage.
And my dear sister said, our neighborhood had shred day. We
Woohoo!
finally were able to participate. Old tax records, medical, etc., gone.
Yay. It's always so much fun when the shredding you've been piling in the corner finally goes out. Excellent. We're so proud of you, Ann.
Okay, we'll return
Awesome.
for more comments, but we have so much material prepared that we may end up cutting one of our topics if we run out of time. We'll see.
Okay.
We're going to talk about how to declutter large or cumbersome items. We're going to recap organizing a family art or craft space. And we're going to talk about organizing tips to get you out the door. Let's start, Gayle, with how to declutter large or cumbersome items.
Okay, so Susie asked for suggestions on how to eliminate large items that seem hard to get rid of. And she offered the examples of a piano and an old bar from the 1960s. And the survey responses were awesome. And, we asked the audience, what is the largest item in your space that you don't love, don't use often, or maybe ever, and would happily get rid of? And Lynn shared, there is a 3-piece china cabinet set that stretches the entire wall of the dining room that was full of entertainment, crystal and glassware, several sets of fancy dishware, wine and liquor, and table decor. I decluttered and gave away the contents, and I'm left with the skeleton of this behemoth that no one wants and is so heavy it requires 4 people to move each piece. So this is a perfect example to start our topic with today. This is the kind of piece that needs to be in a large home or business, like the lobby of a local theater or in a historic home. So I would take some photos and email all your contacts, all your friends, all of your acquaintances. Who knows of a nonprofit business, a tourist venue, a library, an interior design firm, a furniture restorer who might be interested in this item. Don't focus on trying to make money from it. Just worry about finding someone for whom it's a good fit that can actually take it away. So you want to talk to people who might have access to clients with large spaces, whether that's personal or business, that might be able to absorb such a piece. Going for a regular family home won't really get you there because it sounds like it's too large. So you're really trying to reach out to people that might know of more public spaces that could use something that big. That's my thought on that one. Christine reported that she recently gave away a pool table with a great sense of relief. And I say, great job about that. That clears a huge footprint in the space, I'm sure. Most people create a pool room because the pool table takes up the entire room and there's not much else that'll fit in there. So if you clear out the pool table, you've really gained a lot of square footage. So good for you. And then Margie answered, a sectional sofa that is too large for our living room. It's 4 large pieces. It was intended for the finished basement, but it never made it down there. That's hilarious. Yeah, we were going to put that couch down there and it never quite, like it probably needed to be carried and you didn't have the people or the finished basement didn't get done or whatever. And so you jumped the gun and bought the sofa to fit the room that never actually came to be or got finished out. So it's an easy one, at least it's the sectional sofa. So that's something you can put on Facebook Marketplace or Nextdoor. Post photos on the church message board, send an email with those same photos to all your contacts lists, offering it up. Ask your friends verbally, do you know somebody that needs a sectional couch? You don't have to say, do you want a sectional couch, so that they feel put on the spot, but you can say, do you know someone who needs a sectional couch? Find a refugee program that helps people resettle after they come to the US, or a rescue organization that helps people that are displaced by fire and flood. If somebody's house has flooded out and all the furniture has gone to the curb, as happened in Harvey, a lot of people were left without anything. And so at this point, a family that needs something to add into their house would be happy to have a couch that could seat everybody. So There's all kinds of organizations like that. When the house burns down and they have nothing left but ash, or everything that they got smoke damage, and so it can't be used anymore. There are events in people's lives that destroy their entire contents. And so those people are out there, and there's organizations that help them recover, and your sectional couch would be super useful to them. So you just need to do a little digging. There's some digging and phone work and maybe some leg work, but you can certainly find those people that would then, because they're getting it for free, or they're going to pay $200 or something inexpensive, they'd be perfectly happy to make the arrangements to hire somebody to come and pick up the sofa and take it where it needs to go and take it out of your house, which would be awesome. That's the general point. Oh, those survey results were hilarious, by the way. Let me just say that. In general, in terms of disposing of large pieces, I think there's a couple of things you can think about. There's a dumpster rental, like an actual construction dumpster, if it's something that you want to throw away, if it's a large item that you're trying to get rid of. You can also use a bagster. I'm saying BAGSTER. That's bagster.com. And that's where you actually go to a local Home Depot and Lowe's, get a big, what in essence is a canvas bag that you come and fold out on the driveway, and then you put things you want to throw away, and then you schedule a pickup for something under $150, and a big truck comes and grabs the handles of the bagster and puts it in the truck and drives it away. So you can pay to have that hauled off in that way. You can contact a regular junk hauler to get rid of big stuff. If you're going to sell it on the marketplace, Facebook Marketplace or something else, you can sell it, and in that listing, you make it the transportation, the responsibility of the buyer. So you're not offering to deliver it. You're saying that you can have it, and you need to come and get it, and you need to bring the bodies to come and get it. So any kind of a listing, then make it very clear that the buyer has to come and take it away, that you're not delivering it.
Bagster is now part of Waste Management.
Oh,
and so I've included a link in the chat, and I'll put a link in the show notes
my
to actually
apologies.
get to Bagster.
I did not check that out again.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. There's some donation options. Habitat for Humanity has restores everywhere, and there's lots of they take lots of furniture donations. Now, these are things you have to deliver to them, but it might be worth renting a U-Haul for $20 to load it up and get it away from your house. So taking it to them means that it'll end up being used in one of the houses that they built, and supporting a family, which is awesome. Most cities have a furniture bank of some kind. The Houston Furniture Bank exists, and it's basically donate the furniture, and we then give the furniture back away to people that need it. And so you can search in your area for who is running some kind of furniture donation and redeliver a furniture process in your environment, in your city, in your area. They use the word furniture bank because they're storing it and have a function to give it back away again. And usually they also sometimes, like the Habitat for Restore has a little sale option as well. They have some kind of store, but majority of what they take, they then put into their houses. So same with the furniture banks. Salvation Army and Purple Heart are programs that will come to your house and pick up. There's some parameters around furniture and how much and how often and where they have to pick it up. So they won't like come into your house and go up on the second floor and drag a piece of furniture down. So you may have to pay movers to at least bring it down and put it in the garage, or make it accessible for the Salvation Army Purple Heart trucks to come and pick it up. So sometimes disposal, costs money. Sometimes you got to put a little resources in to get it out of the house. And any kind of refugee program or recovery program for people that are in disasters are going to be taking items that will help them serve their population. And so they're more likely to make arrangements to come pick it up for you. You just got to make those phone calls. Okay, so those are some general ideas about disposing of stuff. And then specifically, I wanted to talk about some specific items. So pianos is a big one. She mentioned pianos in her comment, and pianos definitely are a problem for people. They feel like they're super, super important, and they feel like somebody's going to pay a whole bunch of money to have them, and B, they shouldn't just be thrown away. And you're right. I think that the market does not support you making a bunch of money off your piano. However, one of the things that I suggest is that you look for a piano teacher in your area. Pretend like you're going to take piano lessons and go Googling for a piano teacher in your area and call them and see. They have a posse of students, right, who are coming to their house for lessons. And a lot of those people are beginners, and their families are looking for a free or a cheap piano to let their student practice on at home. And so if you can hook up with somebody who's teaching piano to beginners, then they sort of have access to a prime population of people that might want your piano to play on and practice on. And they might be willing to come and take it away. So that's an option. I would also check with a little church, any kind of a small church that doesn't have a big budget. They might want a piano or could use a free or cheap one for their choirs, practicing their kids programs, that kind of stuff. So the church might have a small church that doesn't really have a budget to buy one, might be willing to take one of yours away. And also a middle school or a high school music department might want to have one. They often have a performance piano, and they might have a practice piano, but they might also want a second practice piano. So you can see if somebody wants one in a high school that doesn't have a well-stocked or well-funded music department, and they might be happy to have your piano. Large furniture is another category in this sort of disposal section. We have talked about that over time, but in particular, I'm thinking about big pieces of furniture and whether they can have a new life as something else. So sometimes you just have to forget what it was being used for to begin with. Imagine it being used as something completely different. It was a kitchen table, but now it's going to be a desk. Now it's going to be a part of a storage unit, and we're going to store stuff on top of it. Now it's going to be an alternate to craft table, that kind of stuff. So you can think your way through, what did it used to be really doesn't matter, or what can I do with it now that's completely different? And sometimes you can repurpose it that way. One viewer this week wrote in and said that she chopped up a large piece of furniture that was too big, and they chopped it up for firewood rather than to haul it off. I thought, well, that's unconventional, but it's effective and it works. And so if it works for you and you want to chop it up and use it for firewood, go for it.
I would caution against using old furniture for firewood because it's typically, depending on how old, it may be treated lumber, which contains things that you don't really want to be exposed to when they burn. And it will almost certainly have, varnishes and waxes and things that could produce dangerous combustion byproducts. So I would not burn old furniture. Not burn it in the house. Well, how about burn it in the yard? You could put it in the burn pile if you have the ability to do burn piles, but that only happens out in the country. You can't do that in the city. So yeah, I would recommend extreme caution with burning anything that is not meant to be firewood. I did think it was funny. She said that they kept themselves warm all winter using this piece of furniture and chopping it up for the whole winter long. I mean, you certainly hear lots of stories about this is how bad it's gotten. Examples, right? This is how beat up the pieces. Okay, so you can also post it for free on Nextdoor or in Facebook Marketplace and just specify the buyer has to pick it up. Like I said earlier, send an email with photos to your email contacts and saying in that email, I need physical help to donate it, or it's free to a good home in exchange for the pickup. So you can either solicit your contacts for help getting it out to be donated somewhere, or offering it up free to a good home. And then Salvation Army and Purple Heart, like I said earlier, they have pickups. If they have pickups in your area, you can get on their pickup schedule, and you may have to wait a little bit. And the items has to be really accessible to them. Because of their insurance purposes, their drivers can't
really function as moving men. And so they can't like go into the house and go up on another floor and pull something down. They're restricted about where they can pick something up. So usually you have to get it
To the
down in your house and
porch
either
or
into the
driveway
garage
or
or
garage.
the porch or something. And so that they can pick it up from there.
Michelle in Yorkshire mentioned that in the UK, the British Heart Foundation will collect for free and sell stuff for charity in their shops. But
Awesome.
soft furniture such as sofas will need the fire retardant tags. It will have, if they're not still on there, they won't want to take it.
Oh, okay.
And she said, I got them to take a full bedroom set several moves ago.
Awesome. That's wonderful. There's always something out there. You just have to do a little digging, right? So everybody has their version of, please come and take this stuff away from the house and give it to someone else. And you just have to do a little digging. So thank you for sharing that resource.
So Emily Sue has a question that is, sort of may force you to stretch that. She says, if you can't give away or donate a large piece, then I guess the fate of that item is garbage.
If yes, you can actually, put it out to the curb for heavy trash pickup. And if you do it, most of the time, the rules around heavy trash are, if you're scheduled during the week, then they allow you to put it out starting at the beginning of the weekend before. And if you get it out early so that it's sitting out there for, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, out into when your pickup day is. So it's out there for 4 or 5 days. Usually somebody will come and take it away before the heavy trash ever comes to get it. So if you can just get it to the curb, then, it most likely will disappear long before the heavy trash. Now, you don't want to get in trouble with your subdivision or the city by putting it out inappropriately or not on a scheduled heavy trash day. But if you do it early on for the heavy trash day, then you should, it should disappear before the trucker has to come for it. I once cleared out my garage and lined the whole sidewalk with junk that needed to be picked up. And by the time heavy trash day came around, there was like 3 things left and everything else had been picked up and taken away. It's like, you know what? If you guys want to take it off my driveway, I'm happy for you to do that. You just got to make it available, right?
M mentions we have a music store here that takes old pianos, refurbishes them, and then sells them.
There you go. Okay, not everybody has that resource, but it's good that you do. That's awesome. Not all piano stores are in that business, so cool.
No, right. But it gives you another possibility to search for in your area.
See if anybody wants to do that. Absolutely. Okay, so the last specific large thing I want to talk about is about derelict vehicles. If you have a vehicle that's hanging around your property that you don't need to get rid of, that you don't need to keep, then in Houston, NPR has a vehicle donation process that they advertise all the time. And I actually did it with my last car and it was very easy. Had to do some paperwork, come up with some documentation that they request. And then lo and behold, a tow truck comes to your house and takes your paperwork and takes the car and drives it away. So it was very easy. And then they followed up with the paperwork when the car had sold at auction. They followed up with how much money was made. So in essence, they put a number to the donation that you made based on the auction results. And so I knew what my deduction was for the year and it worked very smoothly. So if you have access to NPR in your area, they might be running a vehicle donation process where you are. You can call a scrap or a salvage yard and see if they want to take it for parts. And they're obviously a scrap or salvage yard is going to have tow trucks as part of their fleet. And so they have the capacity to come and get it without any trouble. If it's a type of car that people collect, then I would contact an enthusiast group. Like if you have an old Corvette sitting around that's not running or it's falling apart or whatever, there may be customers in a enthusiast group that would want to use the car for parts or piece it out for parts. So go looking for the type of car that you have and see if there's collectors clubs out there. And if there are, then you can contact them and say, I have this beat up car, doesn't run. Does anybody want it for parts? And see the people that collect that car will be more likely to want the parts. And the large appliances, I'll just say large appliances, similar to large furniture. And the only thing is, if you end up putting a large appliance out for heavy trash, just make sure that it's, like the refrigerator, make sure the door comes off so that it can't be a danger to somebody playing around it, and then just put it out there and wait for it to disappear. Okay. Do we have a stopping point here, or I'm moving on?
Let's move on, because we're already at 1:30. So
okay, cool.
12:30 your time.
Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is your family art or craft space. And this topic came from Ellen, who asked us to talk about managing art supplies for a very creative family: markers, brushes, notepads, clay, etc. How to store but easy to reach. And also, in answer to the recent survey, Karen said, "You've covered it before, but I always appreciate discussions about managing art and craft materials in a small space." So we did ask our audience a couple of questions about the arts and crafts forms that they're into or would maybe like to try out. And 95% of the people that responded reported one or more crafty thing that for which they possessed supplies. So clearly we're a very creative group. Some of the activities most frequently listed were sewing, painting, crochet, drawing, knitting, quilting, beading, scrapbooking, photography, and stamp making, and candle and soap making, which I thought was interesting.
I wanted to try and inventory the whole list, and it is amazingly long. So
those are the most popular ones.
Yeah, those were just the biggest, the ones I counted the most of.
Right.
I did a very unscientific study
collection
of the answers. Yes.
And all of those that you listed have lots of supplies and tools to go with them. And so clearly you guys are actively entertaining yourself with arts and crafts, and you have lots of supplies you need to manage. Some less common hobbies that were mentioned included making dioramas with Barbie houses. I thought that was fascinating. With Barbie houses, Barbie furniture and accessories, and then Chinese brush painting and metal repoussé, which I thought was, what is that one? That I didn't recognize that one. And arrow making. Arrow making sounds fun, but there's lots of tools on that.
I had to look up metal repoussé, which it's like pounding a pattern into a thin piece of metal to create bas relief,
right?
Bas relief design on the other side.
Right. Okay. So those are definitely less common hobbies and fascinating, and they sound very tool heavy. As I'm looking at the metal repoussé and the arrow making, I'm guessing those all have a lot of tools involved. So in response to our question about arts and crafts that you'd like to try, the most frequent answer was painting. So it sounds like if 2022 could be the year of the painter in the Clutter Fairy community, you guys are all looking forward to learning how to paint. So Anne actually has been taking lessons for some time, so she can advise you about how to get started. The most surprising response to that question came from Jean, who said, "I've been through the arts and crafts thing. I would actually like to try axe throwing for my birthday." We're not 100% sure if she's pulling our leg, but best of luck. And please be sure to warn everybody before you start your axe throwing hobby. I'm not sure that I guess it could be, maybe that's more of a sport. It could be considered a craft, depending on how, your axe throwing skills. Anyway, thank you, Jean, for that great suggestion. So I'm going to respond to all of these with my standard advice about organizing your craft room, because that still stands. First, organize your main supply for that craft, sorted by color, stored in what is visually open storage that is easily accessible. So clear containers and sorted by in something open that can be laid out for you to put things in and out of. What I mean by main supply is, if you're painting, your main supply is paint. If you're knitting, your main supply is yarn. If you're beading, your main supply is beads. If you're scrapbooking, your main supply is paper. So there is, for each craft, there is a main material that gets used for all of the work that you do. That's your main supply. And it's the one that you have the most of, in the most variety, with the most, options of colors, the biggest volume. And so you want to organize the main supply as a set to make it accessible, and mostly to have it be open or out so that you don't have to unpack a bunch of stuff to get to it. That's the biggest thing, is making it easy access for yourself. Then step 2, organize your secondary supply. So this is the embellishments to the main supply, and you want to organize them separately from the main supply and try to use it as a portable storage that can be moved onto the work surface and back off of the work surface, because you don't start out with the embellishments, right? You do work with the main supply first, and the embellishments come later. So in beading, embellishment is buttons and stringing cord and things like that. In knitting, an embellishment supply might be beads. In painting, an embellishment might be paper if you're adding things onto the canvas. And so there's always supplies that get used as stage 2 as embellishment in the main supply. And so you want to separate those from your main supply, store them in something portable that can be moved on and off the surface. Then the third thing is you want to look at your tools, store the active use tools on the work surface, the ones you use all the time. And then all of those other tools that you only use every once in a while, those are the ones you want to store separately in another place off of the work surface. And then lastly, you want to store your reference materials together. And I'm talking about craft books that you have, the magazines, the catalogs, class materials, handouts that you've gotten, things you've cut out of magazines or cut out of other places, all of those pieces of paper that are about instructions and showing and inspiration for the craft that you do. Pull all that stuff together, organize it, and put it away on a bookcase, on a shelf somewhere. And it can be in the room with you, or it can be in another room. The idea being that you don't have all those books out and open all the time. You're only going to have one set of paper, one piece of paper, one book, one instructions in a magazine that you're going to be following at a time. And so pulling all that reference material out of the work craft room so that it's all out of your way until you need it will clear up a lot of chaos in your craft room. And so that's my, my standard crafting answer. To adapt it to a smaller space, then the storage options need to be portable, stackable, or hangable. So imagine what shelving could be added to a small space that would then hold smaller stackable containers with your supplies. Think about plastic shoe pockets that hang on the door frame, so that over the door hanger that has pockets in the front that sometimes have a little pleat in them so that they can poof out. And that they make them with that great clear, super clear plastic. And so you can use all those pockets for supplies on the back of a door. Label supplies with label supplies that are of the same craft with same color labels. And then when you have supplies for a secondary craft or a third craft, change the color of the label so that when you're beading, then you pull all the things that have purple for beads. When you're knitting, then you pull all the things that have blue for knitting, just as a visual reference point for you to get into the supplies. If you have a small space, you're likely putting those things in closets, under the bed, in random storage spaces that are in your house that may not necessarily be in a craft room. And so if you're needing to be able to go and pull things out of someplace hidden, if you have color-coded labels, it'll help you grab the right things. And I would add here, particularly because you're in a small space, being able, you're going to have to be putting everything away in containers to make it easy to stack and move around. And the best way to function with those containers is for them to be really crystal clear containers, as opposed to a dollar shoebox that's milky plastic that's difficult to see through. You want to spring for the extra money to get the container that is perfectly 100% see-through, so that as you're hunting in your stack of containers on a shelf, on a wall, in the back of a closet, it'll be easier for you to see what you want because you've used crystal clear containers. Okay.
Okay. I never thought I would have to say this in my life, but I have several comments about axe throwing to share. M
Go for it.
M says axe throwing could turn clutter into easy to toss trash pretty quickly.
Right. It's true.
Marcy shared, people here were suggesting axe throwing for something to do for my birthday last year when I was looking for suggestions. There are places to go and do that.
I know, right?
This is a bit of the culture of which I was entirely unaware.
They also serve alcohol, so you can throw axes and drink beer at the same time, which seems a recipe for disaster to me, but
right. Marcy said, I said it would not be safe for anyone if I did that, but thanked them for the suggestion. And then let's see. D in the Sierras added, there are axe throwing entertainment, I put that in air quotes, establishments that have cages set up with targets. They
right?
usually also sell beer, so keep your head on a swivel.
Right. Well, and I've seen a video and I saw this one woman, she threw the axe and it bounced off the wall and it came straight back at her. It was like, pa-choom, boom, right back at her. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like, I don't need to be drinking a beer and throwing an axe that's going to bounce off the wall and come right back into my face. Thank you, but no, thank you. That's
right.
Just me asking to die at my own hand.
I can hurt myself sitting in a comfy chair reading my iPad, so I don't need to add axe throwing to the equation.
Right.
Linda in Pennsylvania said, my main supply is yarn, and I've been storing it at the store until I'm ready to start a new project.
Hey, that's a good plan.
This practice has been keeping me happy for a year.
There you go. So you thin out the herd and then you just go shopping when you're ready to do something new and you buy the yarn for that project. That's excellent. So you have better control than a lot of my crafty friends. I'm proud of you and congratulations. And you're still out there knitting and having fun. So that is great. That's super awesome.
I want to make a special announcement so that we don't run out of time and fail to get to it, which is to say, we want to say a special thank you to Dawn for becoming our newest Patreon supporter. If you would like to help support our efforts with a recurring monthly donation of any size, please visit cfhou.com/Patreon. Your contributions help us offset the costs of producing the weekly webcast and podcast, and will help us fund new projects that we have in the works. Thank you for your support, Dawn, and all our generous underwriters.
Thank you. We have a steady posse of people that have agreed to send a little money every month to help us do our thing. And we really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Another quick announcement before we move on to our third topic. I think we have enough time to get it all in here.
Awesome.
Someone asked, is a recording available? So this must be this is a new participant. Yes, all of our webcasts get recorded, lightly edited, and then posted on our YouTube channel. Go ahead and hold up the sign for that, Gayle.
Oh, yes, I will.
If you go to, the easiest way to get there is go to cfhou.com/YouTube, and that will route you to the longer URL that YouTube has assigned to it. But
and straight to our channel.
That'll get you to our channel, which has about, we must be coming up on 250 videos on all kinds of different organizing topics.
Right. And Ed's been very carefully organizing them into playlists. So you can go out now and look at a playlist of how to organize the kitchen. What about packing and moving? All that kind of stuff. So make yourself, avail yourself of all of our hours and hours of chattering about organizing. It's out there for you.
Connie mentioned something about there's a festival somewhere where they throw cell phones. I think in the UK.
That would be fun.
Now that's getting, as hobbies go, that's getting a little far afield from the kinds of things where you'll need to organize a whole room or work area around it.
Right.
I think if you take up cell phone throwing, you have a pretty light inventory.
Right. But I have a stash in my garage right now of clients' old cell phones. I I could, host my own throw and hand everybody a cell phone to throw across the room. That'd be hilarious. I love it.
Okay. How about talking about how to get out the door?
Okay, so this topic came to us from Diana, who wrote, I live an hour away from mom and the grocery store, so I have to stack errands and appointments. If I miss getting out of the door on time, it'll mean I miss getting things done, and it'll mean another road trip. So clearly, if it takes her an hour to get on the road, to get where she's going, that messes up her whole day if she doesn't get it done right. So what you're really asking about is your productivity. Those routines and habits that help you be effective. So we asked our audience, name 3 items that you would feel completely lost and helpless without if you left home without them. Not even one person listed their American Express card, even though Amex has been telling us don't leave home without it since 1975. And a special shout out to Cassandra for mentioning the Amex slogan. Our resident snark specialist, Ms. March, said that she'd be lost and helpless without her beloved goldfish Finn. Or maybe she was being serious and Finn has a travel bowl that can go in the car. But a huge majority of her responses included at least 2 of the items from what we'll call the Holy Trinity: phone, keys, and purse, wallet, or some form of payment. A lot of people also included reading glasses, medications, a warm piece of clothing, their planner, which is a great one, or a water bottle or other beverage for the journey. A few people also mentioned something to keep you entertained if you have to sit around and wait, like a book or a project to work on. Those of you that are knitters often take knitting with you to go sit somewhere in line and sit and knit while you're waiting. So this is a process of getting out the door with your phone and your purse and your
phone, your keys, and
there. Thank you. That's the one I was missing. Yeah.
Purse or wallet or credit card. Some people said, some people nowadays will just take the one card that they charge everything on.
Right. So that list of, you need to get out of the house every day with those things. At least you got to have the keys to lock the house. You got to have the phone. You got to have your wallet, your ID. And so those are the big 3. But if you're also trying to, as our viewer suggested, she's trying to run errands, get to her mother on time, accomplish her day, then she needs to be prepping for getting out of the house. And so I think one of the things that fails for people is they don't really understand how long it takes you to do specific tasks in the morning. So one of the things I suggest you do is time yourself to see how long something actually takes. How long does it take to make coffee and breakfast? And make sure you're allocating enough time when you're trying to get out of the house by a specific time. If you need to leave the house by 9 o'clock and it takes you a half an hour to make breakfast and you're going to spend 15 minutes eating it, then you've got 45 minutes already on the clock that you have to make space for in order to get out of the house by 9. There's other parts of that you can time. How long does it time you to get dressed in the morning? Time yourself how long it takes to get ready in the morning when you're taking a shower, getting dressed, getting the shoes on, all that stuff. What's the actual time that's elapsing as you go about that business? You want to do it in a way that is normal and make yourself aware of what the actual time that's escaping is during that process. I do suggest that you prepare as much as you can the night before. And for people that are ADD in particular, preparing things the night before so that you don't go to bed until you feel like you're ready. You lose a little bit of sleep sometimes, but then when you get out the door, you don't have to figure it out as you're trying to get out the door. And so there's less for you to be distracted by. You feel less stressed leaving the house, and stress, being frantic as you leave, is a recipe to guarantee you get out of the house without something that you need, that you get distracted and have to circle back and go pick up something you forgot. All of that. Oh, I forgot. Oh, I have to. Oh, what about? I need to put all of that hesitation and thinking slows you down, chews up time, and makes it harder for you to get out the door. So anything that you can do to get yourself ready, including taking all the stuff that you want to go with you and putting it in the car the night before, stacking those things by the front door the night before. I mean, lining it up as if you're going to go on vacation the next day and you're going to put your luggage out the night before it goes. And so anything you can do the night before helps. You might want to pick out your clothes. Some people get really hung up in the morning trying to decide what to wear. So if you make that decision the night before and lay those pieces out, then you can just get up and go about your routine of getting ready, and the clothes are already there, and you don't get stuck in the closet standing there staring at the bar wondering what clothes I'm going to take down to wear today. That's a good way to eat up some time. So make that decision the night before. You might also want to make yourself a list of things to pick up on your way out. Especially if you're shopping or running errands, you likely need to take the coupons. You have something that you need to return. You're taking something to drop off to your mother's house. There's things that you want to pick up and take with you. And so if you make the list and you put some of those things in the car, or you put them by the door, then as you get in the car, you can look at the list and go, do I have this, 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 and this? Yes, I do. And then you can be out the door and be happy. Some people get hung up worrying about the route on how to get there. And so, and if you have multiple errands, then there's probably a route that's more effective than, okay, I'm thinking about this store, so now I'm going to drive over there, and now I need to drive back to here, and now I need to drive over there. And there's some process of wasting time being in transition all the time. So if you get out the Google Maps and put in all of your destinations, you can figure out what places to hit in what order that make the shortest, easiest trip. Considering, the time of day and the traffic, and you don't want to be in the traffic during rush hour and blah, blah, blah. So some people like to start with the one that's easiest and work their way to the one that's farthest and then come back. Some people like to do it the other way. They like to go to the one that's farthest away and then work their way back towards home. Whatever works for you, but it is definitely, it'll definitely help you if you can plan that route the night before. So you just get up and know, I'm going to go here and here and here and here, and make that list, throw it in the maps, and off you go. Another way to cope with getting out the door on time is a collection of phone reminders or alarms. So you can help prompt yourself if you tend to be distracted, if you're ADD, if you think you spent too much time. If you set an alarm to wake yourself up, you might as well set an alarm to, I should be dressed by now. I should be finished with breakfast by now. If you poke yourself with reminders or alarms saying it's time to start eating, or it's time to be done, it's time to be out the door, you need to be out the door in 10 minutes, then you can sort of remind yourself to pay attention to the time that's going by and help you get out the door on time. A lot of people like that are ADD in particular, like Time Timer products. Time Timer makes a product that has their clocks, and there's also an app on the phones that creates a sleeve that goes on top of the clock, and it's a sleeve of color red, and that sleeve subtracts as the time moves by, so you can see the time elapsing because the colored sleeve that window is shrinking as the time elapses. And that helps you keep focus because you can see it visually moving, which is easier, I think, for most people than watching the clock tick by. You're watching the shrinking amount of time instead of the movement of the hands around the clock. So it helps you be aware of how much time you have left before you have to leave. I would also say decide which things that you absolutely have to do first. Do the most important things to get ready first. In case you get down the road and you've run out of time and something's gone awry, if you have to drop something off your list that you can't get done before you leave, you want it to be something that's less important rather than more important. So I would focus on doing the most important things to get ready and out the door first. And if you, like I said, if you have to drop something, it'll be something that's less important. There's something about habit that makes it easier, and sort of muscle memory, and the idea that you don't have to think about it too hard. If you do something in the same order every time, if you get ready in the same order, if you take the shower, then get dressed, brush your teeth, then put on makeup, make the toast, feed the pets, whatever order you do it in normally, do it the same way every time, because then you wake up and you're sleepy, but you can sort of do it without thinking too hard, and you won't miss something if you do it in a repetitive manner. It helps you remember, oh, I haven't brushed my teeth yet, because this is the time when I normally brush my teeth. I experience this just because I'm not a morning person, and I do the same things in the same order all the time. And at my house, the cats are first, usually because they've been yelling at me. And so the cats, I get up, I turn off the alarm, I feed the cats, and then I make coffee. And so those are things that I do in the same order every day. And I need to do that because I am half asleep walking around for the first, hour and a half that I'm up. So I do things in the same order every time in order to make it easier for me to function. And as it becomes muscle memory, as it becomes a habit, and it has that same sense of familiarity to it, and if you go off track, if you don't do something in the right order, it suddenly feels unfamiliar and you notice it more quickly, I think. That's my theory anyway. So work on doing everything in the same order in the morning when you're getting ready, and that will help you get used to how much time it takes and get everything done so you don't forget something and still get you out of the door on time. And the last little bit I'll say about this is, every time you miss getting out of the house on time, then you realize, oh, I was supposed to leave at 9:30 and I didn't leave until 10. Every time you do that, back up your start time by 15 minutes. If you started your day at 8 o'clock hoping to get out at 9:30 and that didn't work, then back it up to 7:45, back it up to 7:30. Every time you fail at getting out on time, move your start time back. And eventually you will realize how much time you actually need to get out the door. You will eventually start at the correct time to get you out when you want to get out on time. Those are my theories. I hope they're helpful and useful to you.
We only have time for a couple of comments because
Okay.
we're just about there, but there's lots of useful suggestions in the chat. M said, my grandmother kept a paper bag with a label on it for each of the places she would be visiting, her children, church, etc. When she thought of something, she would put it in the bag right away. Then when the date finally came, everything was already in the bag, ready to go.
Oh, isn't that great? That's like, long-term prepping for an event. I like it.
Connie said, for people with ADHD, don't count on remembering something tomorrow morning. Do it the moment you think of it. Put the thing in front of the door. Right
by the door. Put it in the bag that you always take with you. Put it in the reusable bag that you're going to take with you for this particular trip, but stage it by the door and put it in there when you think of it. Absolutely.
Pat suggested consider a grocery shopping app to keep a running list to order for pickup.
Or to have with you if you still want to go to the store. Like, just creating that list over time is a big help.
Well, I was thinking too, I think for people who are grouping their errands and are going to be doing a lot of things, just create a list for yourself, create a checklist before you leave the house of where you want to go and what needs to go with you. Achala mentioned some checklist items like making sure you have your ID, making sure you have anything you intend to return. I have lost the comment. There it is. Samples for shopping. If there's something you're trying to color match, be sure that the sample goes with you.
Having a little sticky by the door that has the must-have grabs, putting it right by the door, right in your eye line when you go to open the door. Do I have this, and this? And you can just stop for a second and read that list and confirm you have the things before you walk out. And that will save you getting the car and realizing, or driving down the road and realizing. My friend Sandy the other day was coming to my house so that we could go to the bead retreat. And she realized when she was about, a half a mile from my house, that she had forgotten her phone at home and she had to turn around and go back all the way home to get it. And so you want to try to realize that before you leave the house. If you put a little list up there on the door where you go, you can pause for a second and read it and hopefully catch that kind of stuff before you go.
Okay, we need to wrap up. I'm going to mention that we will be back next week at the usual time. We're big changes in your life, like moving in with a new partner, breaking up, getting divorced, having a family member move in unexpectedly, etc., can disrupt or derail your organizing habits and routines. Next week, we're going to talk about how to keep your organizing mojo and momentum, even when it feels like the ground is moving beneath your feet. Join us on January 31st for Shifting Ground, How Life Changes Complicate Your Clutter Picture.
All right, that's the next up.
Why don't you give us the tittle?
It's time for the tittle, which is art is long, space is short. Most of our audience members practice at least one form of art or craft. So this week's assignment is to apply a few of the principles we talked about today to manage your art or craft materials more effectively. So 1, you want to simplify. Do you keep supplies or tools for more than one craft? Think about whether there are any that you're ready to eliminate or downsize. Consider letting go of any forms for which you no longer have the physical strength, stamina, manual dexterity, grip strength, hearing, vision, or just plain interest. If you think you might one day return to the practice in question, then keep a starter set of the most essential items. You'll need to pick it up again and let the rest of them go. Materials, you want to look at materials. Do you have an inventory of raw materials that you no longer are wowed by? We understand the impulse to collect cool and beautiful materials, but it's perfectly normal to lose interest in some of your past choices. And you should only hold on to things that stand a realistic chance of getting used within a reasonable time frame. So decide what capacity you can store and keep only the stuff about which you still feel super excited. And let the stuff that you're not super excited about go to another artist who will get super excited about it. Check out your tools. Take a moment to examine your tools and equipment. Do you have anything that you tried and then you didn't like it, or beginner tools that you've outgrown, or items that you find uncomfortable or difficult to use? Share your excess with someone who's just starting out in your hobby and get rid of those tools that annoy you, bother you, are not worth your effort. Look at your reference materials. Review your art and craft books, the magazines, all the clippings and supply notes, the project notes. Check out the content to see if it's still relevant to the work that you do and appropriate to your skill level or your ambitions, as well as whether it's still fun and interesting. Filter and donate anything that doesn't make the cut and let that reference material collection get a little smaller. And here's an assignment for people who don't have any arts and crafts stuff to wrangle, and the overachievers among our community. Boost your morning routine. Analyze the flow of your morning rituals to work out how long you take to get ready to leave the house or to start your workday if you work from home. Look for the sticking points that tend to eat up a lot of time or energy, and give some careful thought to any task that you could shift to handling on the previous evening so that you can free up some of your time and make your morning routine go a little smoother. That's our survey for today, our tittle assignment for today. And we can't wait to hear what you do with it. Hopefully you'll come back and tell us about it.
If you're watching this on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the Houston Clutter Coaching Meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook, or subscribe to our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from you, so please keep your questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
Thanks everybody for joining us today. We appreciate it. We're so grateful that the rain did not take us out. I was a little concerned that the storm that's happening outside would knock us off the air. So yay, we made it through today.
Hooray!
Hooray! And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.